next, it's Cow and Chicken, followed by Dexter's Laboratory on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Dexter's Laboratory, followed by Baby Looney Tunes on Cartoon Network. Coming up next, it's Batman Beyond, followed by Boomer Action on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Dexter's Laboratory on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Baby Looney Tunes, followed by Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's the Animaniacs on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's more Baby Looney Tunes, followed by Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Tiny Toons, followed by a pup named Scooby-Doo on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Looney Tunes, followed by Duck Dodgers on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Followed by a pup named Scooby-Doo on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Dexter's Laboratory, followed by Ed, and Eddie on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Johnny Bravo, followed by Cow and Chicken on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Tom and Jerry, followed by Sitting Ducks on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Samurai Jack, followed by Justice League on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Sitting Ducks, followed by Hamtaro on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Animaniacs, followed by the Cartoon Show on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's the Powerpuff Girls, followed by the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Cow and Chicken, followed by Ed, and Eddie on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Codename Kids Next Door, followed by the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's the Looney Tunes Show on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Toonheads, followed by Bugs and Daffy on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Droopy, followed by Popeye on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Ed, and Eddie, followed by Dexter's Laboratory on Cartoon Network. We'll be right back with Bugs and Daffy. And now, back to Bugs and Daffy.
You're watching Tom and Jerry on Cartoon Network. It's your night. Take back what's yours. The filth, the cheese. Viva Vermin.
We'll be right back with Tom and Jerry. And now back to Tom and Jerry.
The
Flintstones will be right back. Fred, one thought. Why do you keep taking Dino to the drive-in? I mean, you know he's just going to rip a hole in the roof of the car. That's got to get expensive. Be glad you've got cable. The Flintstones neighborhood doesn't even have fire yet.
We'll be right back with the Flintstones. And now back to the Flintstones.
Sure, Fred would like to take that ascot off once in a while, but the knot's too tight. He can't get the darn thing off. Scooby-Doo will be right back on Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Scooby-Doo. I think this is the one where there's a bad guy in a mask.
We'll be right back with Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo. And now back to Scooby-Doo.
Due to the Scooby Movie's limited budget, there will be no wardrobe changes throughout the entire feature. Scooby Movies will return.
Oh, I lost my ticket stub. Can I watch the rest of the movie? Thanks.
We'll be right back with Scooby Movies. And now back to Scooby Movies.
You're watching A Pup Named Scooby-Doo on Cartoon Network. Welcome back. What is that, Shaggy? Pastrami?
We'll be right back with a pup named Scooby-Doo. And now back to a pup named Scooby-Doo.
You are watching Tom and Jerry Kids on Cartoon Network.
We'll be right back with Tom and Jerry Kids.
Tom and Jerry Kids.
And now back to Tom and Jerry Kids.
Captain Planet is one cartoon known for recycling, especially its storylines. Just kidding, Planeteers. Watch out, toxic evildoers. The Planeteers are back.
We'll be right back with Captain Planet. And now back to Captain Planet.
Whatever you do, Didi, do not push that button. It will bring this show to a halt. Didi!
My massive intellect predicts Dexter is back on Cartoon Network.
We'll be right back with Dexter's Laboratory. And now back to Dexter's Laboratory.
You're watching the comical stylings of Johnny Bravo on Cartoon Network.
Bravo is back, baby. And better than ever.
We'll be right back with Johnny Bravo. And now back to Johnny Bravo. We'll be right back with Cow and Chicken. And now back to Cow and Chicken.
Precious little Bubbles. She works so hard. Oh boy, don't do it! I'm telling the professor! Now, back to... Whoa! I forgot she could do that.
We'll be right back with the Powerpuff Girls. And now back to the Powerpuff Girls.
Eds, you better not be taking a bath. You know it's not Saturday. Is it? We'll be back with more Ed, Ed, and Eddie on Cartoon Network. Watch as the coaster goes round and round and it comes out here.
We'll be right back with Ed, Ed, and Eddie. And now back to Ed, Ed, and Eddie.
We'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. If you don't have a lamb, you might try twiddling your thumbs.
Courage the Cowardly Dog, the ever-reluctant watchdog returns on Cartoon Network.
We'll be right back with Courage the Cowardly Dog.
Now.
And now back to Courage the Cowardly Dog.
We'll be back with more sheep. Wait, don't tell me they're multiplying. Oh, my... Oh, you mean the show. Back, and we mean business. In French, I think we mean bleeding tourist or something.
We'll be right back with Sheep in the Big City. And now back to Sheep in the Big City.
You're watching Freakazoid on Cartoon Network.
We'll be right back with Freakazoid. And now back to Freakazoid.
Coming up next, it's the Bugs and Daffy Show, followed by Batman on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Toonami on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Superman, followed by Batman on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Captain Planet, followed by Boomerang on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Max Steel on Cartoon Network.
Coming up next, it's Codename Kids Next Door, followed by Whatever Happened to Robot Jones on Cartoon Network.
Now, back to the action.